Okay, let's do another demo really quickly here. I'm going to start with a much simpler shape. I think I scared some of you guys off with that other one. For this one, I'm just going to do a really base. Let me do a quick thumbnail right here, real quick. Yes. One. What if I said 10?
Should start subtracting points from our grade each time you hear that question.
I know. I should just subtract it when Ed asked the question. Okay, bear with me, guys. Here, I'm just creating a really quick silhouette shape. Here, let's say that's my silhouette right there. Let's define that now. That's the silhouette I came up with. I want to turn that into a vehicle. Let's start with some basics in here. Now, I drew that from out of my mind, out of a 3/4 view. But if I was going to draw that from a side view, this is where, and some of you guys did this. Some of you guys drew your thumbnails from a 3/4, which is fine. But now I'm going to imagine from a side view, this is what it's going to look like. Okay? From a direct side view. Okay? There we go. Let's say that's our shape. But even though there's little fins hanging out, there might be a little fin back here. This is sort of what I'm going for. So let's start with what we know first, okay? Let's come over here. On the same layer, I'm going to do this really lightly with my blue. I'm pressing down Shift to do this, okay? I'm going to make some base measurements of my ship here, okay? So what do I know right there? I'm going to start putting up my quotes around this wall. Start with what you know, okay? So what do we know right now? We know that this main pod of our ship shape is in this area right here. We also know that this back fin is going to be a lot longer, correct? Just by looking at that from a side view. Okay. We could also sort of tell that from here if we come in here and sketch a 3/4 view. Let me move this over a teeny bit here. I'm going to take my ruler. There's a center line that's going to go down about right there. So I'm going to go ahead and plot this out. Okay. Actually, the center line is going to be about, let's say, right there. So here's the front of my ship right now, and then I'm going to recede this back. The center line, notice it hits that little V shape in there, okay? So I'm just doing this really quickly. So if I draw a cube, I have a good idea of exactly how my ship fits in there. Do you see how that happens? Okay. Now that I've done this, I can come back here and divide this up too as well. Look, if I come over here, I'm going to do this in red for you. Here's the front of my ship. There's the center line sort of my ship that's wrapping over, right? Okay. That's going over here. If I recede this line back right now, and where that dome ends right there, if I come down and end, right, and then come back to my vanishing point and draw that line across, I can see that distance from here to here is just about the same distance as here to here in my side view. Do you see how that works? Okay, once I get that done, and then look at then from the distance from here. So that's the front of my ship exists in that square boxy cube right here. Then the back part of my ship, the distance from here to here, is much longer than that, just like it is here. Okay, right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down, I'm going to start to block that out. Let's rough it out. So first thing we're going to do is look at the one thing that we know right from the beginning is this ship is existing in this shape right here. This shape right here is that a square? No, that shape is a dedicated rectangular shape. Okay, so what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to come over here real fast. I'm not plotting points. I'm going to do this real rough. Okay, but I have a good idea of how my perspective is going to work. Okay, I'm going to sketch in my rough rectangle. Recede this line back this way to that VP. Recede this one back over here. Okay, there. So now I have pretty much a squash cube, which is a shoebox, right? I'm going to recede this line right here. Let's recede this back into this direction. Let's recede this back. Let's get these to hook up. There we go. I'm going to be about right there. Oops, way too dark there. Didn't mean to do that. Stay light. These monitors have great sensitivity on them. Okay. All right. So you with me? Here we are. There's my rough shape right now. Okay. And let's divide up what we know right here. What we know is right here, if we divide that space and I come over here, that's basically a square. So if I come over here and divide this up, I realize now that I made, look at this distance from here to here, that's more like a square. I made that a little too long right here, so I'm going to fix that. I'm going to come in here right now, and I'm going to, like I said, we're going to make little adjustments for little problems that we make. There, so I just drew that new line. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to erase this part over there, because that's feeling much more like a cube to me, the front. Okay? And I'm about equal sides because look at what I have in here. I have a circular shape that's right in here. Do you see that? That exists inside that cube. So now I'm going to come over here. I have that shape. I'm going to eyeball this and mark it to about right here. And come up here. And I'm going to draw my cube shape right here. Okay? I'm going to bring that over. Draw through to the other side. I'm even going to draw through this way. And make sure all this sort of hooks up. That line was way off there, Phil. There we go. That's much more accurate now. Come in here, erase this. Okay, so I have a beginning now. This is key for me. Okay, I have the beginning of my cube shape. And let's look at the distance. Let's compare distances. This distance from here to here, okay, is much smaller than this distance from here to here. Let's see if I have that here. Okay, the distance from here to here is much smaller than that distance from there to there. However, though, I feel like I should, when I'm looking at this right here, I feel like I should lengthen this a little bit more. So I'm just going to do that, and it also adds a little bit more variation into my shape. So, this is a really, really important part right here. Do not forsake this or blow it off. This is us really getting our cube and our box shape established to where it really starts to make sense, okay? Now I'm going to come in here, I'm going to erase. I had some of these other lines in here. I'm going to take these lines out right now. Okay. There we go. Take those out. Get this guy out, 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 out. Okay, I'm going to come back and just, there we go, get that sketched in there. Make sure it's accurate. There we go. We're feeling really good. Okay, step one. Let's start to rough in some type of a center line. Let's just make indication marks on our cube. How do we know where the center of that square is right here? This square from here to here to here. We're just going to come in and we're going to draw an X in there. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to just lightly cross right here in the middle. I'm going to come back with red. I'm going to lightly cross right there. Boom. Now I figured out exactly where my dedicated middle is. So then I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to draw a light line up to the top here. And then I'm going to recede this back to that other vanishing point, VP2. And then I'm going to cross there. There, you see these little points I'm making? All right, I'm going to keep that line going back to here, just really lightly. Watch, I can bring that line back down to right there, and then I could also bring that line across there. Oops, except for the part where my ruler moved and I got that little scribble in there. Let me fix that. There we go, from here to here. Center line's key, folks. That divides my shape right there, and it gives me something to work off of, okay? Now, when I look back at my thumbnail, look at my shaping here. I have a nice round shape. So let's start with that real round shape. Let's come over here and start to sketch in here a round sphere, okay? In this sphere, let's look at this sphere real quick. Let's take a measurement on it. Does it go all the way to the bottom? No. The sphere is right here. It's in the distance from about there to there. There's a fin or something else that protrudes upward and downwards, okay? But you know what? We could make that measurement and get exact about it. Let's just say screw it, and let's just come in here, and I'm just going to do this. I'm going to rough in this round sphere shape that's inside here, okay? That's a horrible rough, by the way, but bear with me. There we go. That's pretty good right there, okay? There. I have that roughed in. Now it gets a little hard for me because I can't really see. I need a center line that wraps over that sphere to give me some contour line, right? So what I'm going to do is from right here, where it hits that little red line, I'm going to come up here. I'm going to throw a round line up and recede this over the top right here. And that's going to be sort of my center line of my round sphere that's in here. Okay? I need that to give myself a little bit of a bearing or a mark to indicate what's happening here with the shape. Okay, that's there. Now I have that round sphere. Let's take a look at what else I have now. I have this back point of the ship. What is it doing? It's angling back. Okay? It's angling back right here, and look at where it's intersecting if I draw a line across in my thumbnail. It's literally from the middle of the distance between here to here, and it recedes back to the top. So I could come back here to the end of where that shape was. I could find the middle again if I draw an X between here and X between here. There's the middle. Okay, now if I draw that line going across here, okay, I now know where the middle is of this line right here. This mark right here is right there. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw a cube. It's going to be right back here, and it's going to angle, and it's going to go slightly above. So I'm going to come in here and sketch my cube, bring it back to this side. I'm going to draw through the shape here. See my cube? And now I'm going to draw back, and that's going to go slightly above. So I'm going to bring this back from here, and it's going to go slightly above. It's going to end about right there. Okay? All right. Now, I might need to fix these lines here and tilt them a little bit because this is on a tilt right here. So I'm going to do this. And what also is happening in my cube, it's going from larger to smaller. So I'm going to draw that here. Larger to smaller. I'm going to end that right here. I'm going to bring this line back this way, receding back to the VP. Come back here. Come down there. So do you see my two core shapes I have in my drawing right now that are in my side view? I have my circle, okay, which is right here in yellow, and then I have this cube shape that's being pinched at the end a little bit right there. I've now drawn those shapes right here, okay? The only difference is that I have a fin coming off the bottom and off the top. What I don't know is, well, I do know this from looking at my 3/4 view. I know that that fin is coming off from the side right here, and I know the back is sort of spreading outward right there. Okay, all right, so let's adjust that. I'm going to have to come back here and cut part of this off and push a cube going outward in this direction. And if I look at how that wing shape literally connects right there, it's going to be protruding outward to the right side. Okay, so I'm going to do that right now. Here's where my circle ended. I had a little bit of distance to there. So let's go in here and let's fix that now. That's part of the difference of going from directly from a side view and then working for a 3/4. That's why when I work, I was trying to encourage you guys to do your silhouettes from side views and then draw them in a 3/4 view and then sort of draw on top of them because you answer some other questions for yourself. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to split this. So I went from this ending round shape here back a little bit more to where it splits. So here's where that cube started, and I went back to about right here, and I'm going to end it right now. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to end this shape about here, drop this down, I'm going to draw through, and then I'm going to erase this because now I'm looking at my other view here, and I've realized I'm not going to need this back part right there. Okay, there we go. Now, these fins are going to split off. Do you see that? Okay. Let's go in right now and draw a center line off of what I have. Here's the front of my ship. That's going to come down. Okay. There's the middle of it, and it's going to dip here, come down to here, and then this is going to wrap in right here. See that right there? You see where my center line is? That's going to be really important to me. Does anyone have any questions on how I just figured that out? I have the center line of the sphere I drew, and then I came in and I found the center of the cube. I dropped down to the back of the cube. I came forward and dropped down again. If I were to take a knife and cut that spaceship in half right now, that would be the exact center point of that. Okay? I'm going to need that in a minute here because I'm going to have to figure out the direction of these fins and how they're traveling. And that's going to be somewhat easy to do because all I have to do is come down here from the center line can find the angle at which these fins are going in the distance. Okay? And I'll do that in a minute here. Let's say if I came in here and measured and I looked, here's the center line, and I drop a point a little bit down from there, I can see where that fin is angling. I basically, let's take a look at that fin shape. This fin shape is basically doing this right now. Okay? It is a squashed cube, rectangular cube. So what I'm going to do in here is, some of my drawings are getting a little bit, I'm going to lighten this up a little bit in here. I'm on multiple layers now. That's where I started. I wanted to walk you through the progression. I'm going to go ahead and put those fins, but now I've realized that I need to bring my cube back a little bit more. I have my cube all the way to the end, but it's over a little too much. Does that make sense? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring that back. I'm going to come in with my eraser, and I'm just going to lightly erase some of this that's in here. Okay. I'm going to go back to blue, and I'm going to end my cube about right here now instead. It was on a little bit of a tilt. There we go. Aha. See how I did that? I just ended a little bit early. I could take the distance from here to here. And to figure that out on the other side, I find that middle point, connect from this corner, and then that's going to be about the distance of the cube on the other side there. Just a small difference on the other side. But now that I figured that out, okay, now I'm going to come over and I'm going to get ready to sketch my fin in here. Let me erase a couple of my lines so it sort of makes sense. Okay, I have this fin, it just comes out here. So what I'm going to do is come back in with my pencil now and sort of sketch out a base shape for my fin. And then I'm going to come in here. Let's just sketch it. Let's just wing it and do the right side the way we're seeing it in our, like this. Okay? That's roughly that shape right there. Okay? Question is now I need to figure out, how does that fin come out the other side? Okay, and that's really easy to do as long as I take a measurement. If I find where this fin is ending here, okay, and I come to the center line of the ship and I drop a line, a measuring line down, and I see where that angle hits, okay, I'm then going to come back and do the same thing through the other side. But see this ellipse I've sketched in here? I need to figure that ellipse on the other side. So I'm going to have to sketch through this shape. There it is. Okay? Now I'm going to sketch that ellipse on the other side. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to come in from that middle point right here, and I'm going to go right through here. That's the fin on the other side. Okay? Let's do the same thing back here. Now I need to find this mark here. And come back through right here. This fin is at an angle. It comes down. If I drop this down, it's hitting about right here. I'm going to come back, connect that through that end right there. Okay? And that's pretty much the fin that's going back through the other side. All right? Now my drawing's really rough right now. It's hard to see some elements in here, so let me drop a couple things down. Let me see if I can drop that down and explain sort of where we're going. So I have, from my center line here of my ship, my fin comes out. It's going to end right here. Let's draw a line where it's going to end. Let's find the center line right here. Draw a line down. Okay. It's going to come this distance from here to here. So if I come back to the other side and I sketch that distance right here, and that's the distance from here on the other side of this cube is about to there. And if I bring that dotted line up there, now I know right about here is where it's going to end. Okay? That probably confused you, but bear with me for a minute. Okay? Let's put another layer over this and then start to rough it out, and then you'll start to see it happening. Okay? Let's start with the body first of this ship. Here's our ship. Okay. There's the center line of our ship that comes down. Here's part of the wing. Oops. Just draw this with my ruler real quick. Part of the wing that's coming through here. And let's draw the other side. Let's start to take these down a little bit. There, do you see how that makes sense? When you look at that right there? Okay, so now that I have that, problem is I get a lot of rough in there and it gets a little harder to see. So let's break that down. Let me lightly draw through it and explain how we just figured that out. Here's our sphere, right? Dot, 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 dot. Coming back here. There's our spherical shape, okay? That's the center line, right? See the shape behind it? It has a center line that's right here. Dot, 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 dot. And it hits right there. It drops down. You can see where that cube shape is right there. Do you see that? Okay? All right? I know that curve in there exists in this box shape right here. So all I had to do was figure that box shape out on the other side. Okay? Pretty much about there. Okay, that's drawing through our shape. I'm just doing this real rough here. And I think the part that might confuse you is the fin part. Let me see if I can do that in red really quick to get this to make sense, right? It's all about the center lines. We need to know this angle right here of that wing. In order to understand the angle of that wing, what we need to do is this, is we need to come back to the core object. We need to find, sorry for the bad rough, but we need to find the center line. Okay, so if this wing ends right here, all we have to do is come in here, find where that hits, and then we make a measuring line that comes down, and then we're going to draw that off the other end, and it gives us the same angle. Okay, I hope that makes sense. That's the most important part to this. So where does this line end right here? How do I find the center line? I'm going to come up to this shape. I'm going to come over and drop. That's the center line for that shape. Now I'm going to come downward here. Okay. I'm going to draw the measuring line. And then where that line comes in and hits right here. Okay. That line is going to connect through. See how it connected through the base of that ellipse? It's going to connect through the base of the ellipse right here on that side and go out. Okay. That's how I figured out the wing. Does that sort of compute? Does everyone have that? Okay. That sort of makes sense because if I have, that's why the center lines are so important here. And then the same thing with the back here. How do I figure out the back? Well, I have that line that's going this way. I'm going to drop a line that comes down that shows me that shape right there. Okay. This line is not a horizontal line, is it? Because if I draw a horizontal line, you could see it's like this. This line is at a slight angle. So what I have to do is I need to find the point, since this edge is hitting here on that connected to that center line, I just draw that angle down and I find it right there. Boom. Where it hits right there, I'm now going to draw from that point through the edge of this other ellipse right here. And when I do that, I come up with that line right there. Okay? Now, how do I know the distance of the wing? If I drop this line down, come back, let me see if I can pull up one of the previous sketches we had right here. There we go, right? I'm going to drop this line down, I come down right here. Okay. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer, guys, sorry. So I drop that line down, right? I'm looking at my cube shape, I'm going to lightly sketch it, and it's right there. I see where that shape ends right there, looking through my shape, drawing through it. Now that I figured that point out right there, do you see how I did that? The wing ends right here, right? So if I draw that line across right now, I can see that that wing ends right here. Okay. Then I could come back over and I could do the same thing to the other side. I know that this box shape goes from here to here. Even though the box is up here, it's above. Okay. Then I could come back over here and I could, now I'm going to have to sort of eyeball this, but you can pretty much estimate it, right? Is that when I look at the distance between here and then there's the body of the ship, now I'm going to have to draw that wing, figure out the distance of that going this way. Okay? But when I look at that, I can pretty much tell that that is actually pretty equal to a gosh darn square. Okay? And that's pretty equal to that square. Okay, so what I can do is just come over here and I could look at that distance from there to there, and I could pretty much eyeball that that distance is going to be about that long. Okay, because it's receding as it gets smaller. There's a mathematical way to figure it out, which involves a measuring line, but I don't want to confuse you, so I'm just going to eyeball it right now. Okay, and actually I'm off. It's going to be about there. So this wing should be coming out a little bit more to about there. And then it's going to end back and it's going to recede backwards like so. Okay, like that. All right, that's how we figure out. And can you see the structure? Like the Lego pieces putting together, I have a round sphere. I have wings that come out. Okay, so now let's say I want to come down here. Let's say I want to put fins now on the front of my ship. Okay. So let's say I want fins sticking out of here. In order to do that, one of the first things I need to know is exactly the middle point of this sphere right here. That's the center line of that sphere, and then this is the back line of that sphere that I just drew, right? Excuse my line being a little crooked there. And now I'm going to draw through the shape. Boom, boom, boom. There we go, I just drew through the shape. Okay? I just have a sphere with a line over it. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to sketch in the other fin. I'm going to decide to put the other fin right here. And I'm going to have this fin come out like this. I'm going to have it come in here. And then I'm going to curve it back like that. Okay? Let's give it some proper thickness so we can see the shape. Okay? So, where does this fin intersect right now on the center line of my sphere? Look at where it intersects. Right in the middle. Right? So if I wanted to, look at what I can do. I can actually come over here right now, and I can, if I want to know on my sphere exactly where this is, see this line right here? Watch. And draw a light trace line. It's going to come over here. It's going to wrap over. And it's going to come through on the other side and end about right there. Do you see that? And I'm going to do the same thing for this end. I'm wrapping the form with a rubber band. Where that comes over, it's going to end about right here on this side. Okay? Here we go. Now that I have that, I can come over and I can figure out exactly. Let's make a red, let's just go across on our cube. We know that this ends here. So if I draw a line across there, I know the other fin's going to end right here. And then I know, looking on my cube from a front view, that this fin ends. So I can pretty much ballpark it that the other end's going to be about right there. If I draw through the shape now, this ellipse right here on the back side is going to be right here. Do you see that? See how I got that? Once I get that line drawing it in there, now all I have to do is go find the angle of the fin. Okay? So if I come back and find my center line, come back to the center of my object, where it hits right here at the base, I'm going to draw a line up. Let's do it in green. Come back. I'm going to draw the angle of that fin and go up. Where it hits right there, I'm now going to go from that point, and I'm going to draw back out the other point right there. Okay? Now, I'm going to do the same thing right here with this line. But what I need to do first is I need to come down and find where it hits my cube, go across. It's going to be right there, and then I'm going to go up. And then I'm going to draw a line there, where that line comes up and hits. That's the midpoint. Then I'm going to come back in from that line right there. I'm actually a little bit off from the thickness. That's basically, if I come through the top here, the fin's going to end about right there. So I'm not going to see as much of, I'm going to see a little bit of that fin, but it's going back in an angle, like that. Okay? So, I know I have tons of drawings on here right now. It's getting a little confusing. Let's add another layer to this, and let's draw on top of what we know right now, what we've already figured out. Okay. So as I fade this off, there's my vehicle right there. Do you see it? I started this off. Let's walk through the progression and go from step 1. Uh-oh. I just merged all my layers by accident. Okay. We started here. We took measurements of our vehicle from different views. Okay. Once we got those in, I sketched in those basic shapes. I have the cube right here. We figured out the angle of the wings. Okay. We started to sketch in the front sphere shape of the vehicle. All right. Once we got that in, this is where it gets crazy, where it gets harder to see. Now I'm going to thin that out a little bit here. Okay. Then we came in and defined the wings. We had to go in and make a measuring line. Okay, to make a measuring line, we just have to find the center line of an object. If we find the angle at which the item is tilted, and then we could figure that out accordingly. Okay, I'll do another example of that for you really quick, because that might be confusing some students how that's happening. All right, and then from here, we clean that up a little bit. We got those angles in, and then we start to come over, and we start to rough out our shape, and we end up about right here. Okay. Oh, I forgot that one line in there. So there we are. I'm going to come back. There we go. So let me turn that down. So that's basically our shape. Let me come over here. Sorry my sphere's so bad, but spheres are one of the hardest shapes to draw, right? Let me erase from here. Okay. I want to put a center line down this. And understand how that sphere, what the ellipse is in here. It's about right there. Okay. This is where I want to, you guys can turn your screens, but I can't. And put a couple dots going across there. Okay. Does that make sense how I got to all that? Let me talk about the fins real quick. I want to give you another base example that's really easy. We're going to do this, we're going to imagine a 2x4. Let me show you how. And explain what the measuring line is here. Okay? If I have a ground plane that's right here, okay, just draw this super quick. Give me a second here. Just going to do it freehand. Be easier. If I have a ground plane right here, okay, and I have a 2x4 sticking out of the ground right here, I want to understand where that 2x4 is sticking out here on its opposite angle, right? This is how easy that is. All I have to do is I just come over here and I'm going to find a midpoint distance between both of them, which is that center line of your ship. Once I find that center line, all I have to do is transfer to figure out how do I get this space from here to here to that side. Well, I can eyeball it, or if I wanted to, I could come in here like this, and I can draw a square. Remember, I can cross the square, find the middle, and connect from that end through. And where that connects through like that, that was proportional division. I showed you guys that. Where that crosses through, I now find that other square right there. Does that make sense? Right? The center line is key. Now I'm going to come down from that center line, and I'm going to drop a dotted line down. That's my measuring line. Where this connects through and hits, I'm now going to bring that through this end here. Okay, and that's going to be my angle of my 2x4 on the opposite side. See how I figured that out? Okay, but you have to have the center line. You have to pick the middle somehow. In our vehicles, we already know where the center line is. We just draw it. Okay, so if I have a 2x4 sticking out of wood, now let's say I had to find the other side. Technically, this 2x4 has thickness to it, right? The other side is 1/4 of an inch over right here. So do I go off of the same point here? No. I have to go find that middle. So if I recede this back, it's going to be right here because that's another separate square back there. Once I find that shape there, I drop a measuring line down. Once I get that measuring line down, I'm going to come back from here where it hits. Okay, actually my ruler bent there a little bit. It would hit in the same place that if I receded the first initial point back in perspective, it'll be connecting on the same point in the on the measuring line. So I go from there, and then I'm going to bring that back through the other side. I measure that distance from here to here to find the thickness of it, and then I come back here and I draw that right through here. I have now figured what angle my shape's going to be at here. Okay, there we go. I need to know where it stops. Where this recedes back to that vanishing point, I'm going to recede this back accordingly. Where that hits right here is where it ends, right like that. Okay. Now my drawing's a little off here. This should be a little bit thicker, like so, receding back. But you get the point. That's how I figured it out. Okay. That's the middle, right there. That's how you figure out those little fins. You sort of do proportional division. If I have a center line right here, and if I have something that's angled at this angle right here, that's sticking out, I just come down here, and this is why the center line is so important, is I find out where that hits the center line. Okay, I just have to take the distance from here to here, I map that to the other side, and then I come from that center line and I just draw through. That's it. Okay, and then it's in there, and then I go sketch the top where it recedes back, where that hits. I found all my answers right there. Okay, it's just like drawing a V basically, but I have to have an understanding of where the center line is in order to do it. Okay, let's switch. Fins are basically like the top of a house, right? The roof of a house. Think of it like that. If I have a house, how do I find out where the cornice of the house is going to be? I cross it. So if I come over here and I draw a line in between the middle, and I find the middle, which is the center line, and I bring that up, I'm now going to come from that point through there, from that point through there. That's exactly what this is if you look at it upside down. Does that make sense? That is just a house top on top of a square. See that? It's the same thing with this is right here. This is just flip the other side up. It's the same principle. Okay? All right, I hope that makes sense on the fins. Okay, let me go ahead and save this demo too before something happens to it. I can talk more about the fins, or I'd be more than happy to come by. But again, I just want to go through, start with the basic shapes, start with the cubes, find the center lines, find your round shapes, get all the shapes that are existent that are supposed to be in your silhouette, come back in, find the center lines, and then on another layer, come back in, sort of tighten it up a little bit more, find your little markings that you have, then you can start to drop off some of these layers. And you can see here, look at my progression. Did I do all this in one layer? No. It takes a while. We used to do this back in the day on tracing paper to have it accurate, because we'd have 5 sheets of tracing paper. Now I can do it on a layer, and I can just thin down the layer as I'm working. And then once I get that layer done, you can really see right here where now our ship starts to come through. And doesn't it feel tangible? It feels like you can reach out and grab it because the perspective is correct. It exists with a dedicated center line. It's been created out of a box. And this, folks, is the correct way to draw. You can talk to Marshall about this stuff. I was just talking to him about it the other day. What I was talking to him about is I made a comment that I wish they taught this in basic drawing here, but they don't. I had an instructor, Mr. Miller, that used to do that, but they need to. This is how we draw out of our heads, is we have to understand how to draw shapes and perspective and how to find center lines. From that point, you can draw whatever you'd like to draw. It's just going to take a little bit of practice. And what is that practice? That practice is getting your brain to think. It's retraining your cognitive visual abilities, getting yourself to think about how things exist in shape. Once you start to do that, this all starts to make sense and come together. From here now, I'll save this demo, and I'll go back over this demo again later. I'm going to come back in and start penciling in detail. But what is really important is I have to have an understanding of the shape. So now I can come back in with cross contour lines on the horizontal or on the vertical axes and start wrapping my vehicle with lines that are going to wrap the shape and make it feel like it's really there and it's tangible. And you could call that, I like to call that wrapping it with rubber bands. You can think of taking a piece of sewing string and dropping it over the shape, and the way that sewing string would hit and wrap over the shape is going to indicate its contour, and it's going to give us a visual indication of what is happening on the shape surface. Okay? All right. Thank you, guys.